However, this time, she just went to the outside of the palace first. She glanced at the maids who were guarding outside the palace, and recognized a maiden who had followed the lady before. Qinya hurriedly called the maid-in-waiting, explained her identity and whispered in her ear. See other palace maids see to come over, then intentionally raised high voice, Wei, our princess is quite unfamiliar in the palace, you and remember that cotton cloth to quickly bring. I know. Please rest assured. The maid-in-waiting was also clever. She answered with cooperation and went down in a hurry. As for what this cotton cloth is, it is naturally used by women to come to the moon. Such an excuse will never arouse people's suspicion. At that time, the palace was another scene. Empress Lin, relying on her family power and Yen Moli, an outstanding son, has been in the back palace for so many years. Although there are private struggles among the concubines, no one dares to be presumptuous in front of her, and Xu Fei is no exception. But Xu Fei was a low-key woman, and she seldom suffered such persecution. But even so, she did not dare to compete with Empress Lin. Now, seeing Xu Fei's retort, Lin Huang's back was cold. He endured his anger and said, What evidence do you have when you say that Chen Fei framed you? Looking at it, it's clear that you want to climb and bite at random when you see it exposed. Poor imperial concubine Chen is old and yellow. Seeing this, she quickly pinches her handkerchief and cries out, Sister Xu Fei, my palace is kind enough to cover up your plea for you, but you are so slandering me. In the face of their repeated attacks, Xu Fei was filled with grievances and indignation, and her soft cheek turned red. Mo Shanghua couldn't look down. She looked straight at Chen Fei without fear. What evidence does Chen Fei have? Can you just rely on these two words to determine the responsibility of one at will? If the Empress is so credulous, is it not to make everyone in the harem feel cold? Is it not to make all the ladies see the joke? Said, she stepped forward 2 steps, looking at Empress Lin sincerely, Mother, if this matter only listened to the one-sided words of Princess Chen, not only unfair, but also damage your prestige, please think twice. Princess you don't pay attention to the Empress. Imperial concubine Chen almost jumped up in anger and pointed straight at the stranger. You are so young and your mind is so vicious. You don't slander our palace. Now even the Empress dares to criticize. Is this what you should do as a daughter-in-law? At this moment, Li Fei, who originally advocated punishing Xu Fei severely, didn't continue to speak. She looked at the situation in the hall thoughtfully. Empress Lin sat on her high position and looked down at the flowers on the street. She said coldly, According to the folk saying, our palace is your mother-in-law, Princess Yu. As your daughter-in-law, you are so disobedient and disrespectful. Today, our palace must not be spared. Then, regardless of the different looks of the officials and their families, he said, Go back and ban for 3 months, and copy the NG twice a day as a punishment. The lady went beyond the palace rules and despised Zhonggong. She immediately stripped off her clothes and banned her for half a year. She was punished in March. In public stripped clothes, this is how much shame Queen Lin is to be in front of the public, mercilessly fell Xu Fei's face. Xu Fei's face turned white, her straight back softened, and she looked at the flowers with a wry smile. I'm implicating you. The flower on the street has never seen Xu Fei. She has a pair of quiet eyes. She looks at Empress Lin, and her eyes flash a little unwilling and stubborn. Inger immediately stepped forward and yelled, Princess Yu, who gave you the courage to look at the Empress like this, don't you agree? Empress Lin's eyes narrowed slightly, and a sense of obliteration flashed through her eyes. What's the queen singing? She's punishing Princess Xu and Princess Yu. I don't want to let go of any of the people I value. In everyone's surprise, Baorong Emperor's voice suddenly came in. Empress Lin jumped in her heart and quickly got up and walked down to salute. When they saw this, they quickly got up and went to the ceremony together. Baorong Emperor walked into the hall and stopped in front of Empress Lin. However, he did not let the people get up. Empress Lin felt her heart beating fast. She knelt down with her restless eyes and tried to open her mouth. I don't know your majesty is here. Please forgive me. Baorong Emperor stares at Empress Lin's headache, and his lips overflow with a sneer. I've been watching for a long time, and the Empress's indiscriminate appearance is really powerful. The tension of the string in the queen's heart broke with a sound of struggle, which changed from half-squatting to kneeling on both knees. Your Majesty, I'm not like this, but Princess, you really disrespected me. I'm angry in my heart, so I'll be punished a little. Oh, is that right? Baorong Emperor obviously didn't believe it. He went over Empress Lin and directly sat on the high position. He waved back to the crowd at will. All the people got up with Baorong Emperor's action. Only Empress Lin could turn around on her knees. Her momentum just disappeared completely. She wanted to explain, but Baorongdi obviously didn't have to listen to it. She pointed to the flowers on the street and said, "You can tell me what's going on." Yes. Mo Shanghua is neither humble nor overbearing. He takes a fair attitude and repeats the whole story from beginning to end. At the end, she glanced at Empress Lin, who was still kneeling on the ground with a smile. Chen just thought that it was too one-sided for her mother to listen to Chen Fei's words. Unexpectedly, she decided that Chen was disrespectful to her mother-in-law and punished her for not saying it. She insisted on listening to Chen Fei's one-sided words. There was no exaggeration in this remark. In front of so many people, Empress Lin wanted to refute it, but she couldn't. Baorong Emperor's face completely sank down, and his eyes coldly looked at Empress Lin. Empress, do you usually govern the 6 palaces like this? The color of the back of the Emperor Lin turned white, and the palm of his hand was greasy. My concubine, my concubine. Don't say it. Emperor Baorong's eyes flashed a touch of impatience. He turned his head and took a look. He stood quietly, neither fighting to defend himself, nor taking the opportunity to fall into the well. He felt a little comforted. Looking at Empress Lin, who is now here, after being questioned by Emperor Baorong, she has been defeated. Her face is so white that she can't say a word of refutation. In contrast, the weight in Baorong Emperor's heart naturally shifted to the lady's side. Look at your posture now, but there is also the majesty of a queen who makes a fool of herself in front of so many faces. Mo Shanghua took a silent look at the official wives standing in a row, and it was funny to see that all of them pressed their heads very low. Empress Lin specially called so many people to come, but Li Wei didn't achieve her goal. Instead, she was reprimanded by Emperor Baorong in public. I don't know what face she will have in the future. Just thinking about it, he listened to Emperor Baorong's voice and said, I see, you are the one who should really reflect. These days, you will stay at Cunning Palace and learn how to be fair. It is clear that everyone frowned and did not dare to look up. However, Empress Lin felt that people's taunting or humiliating eyes fell on her and almost swallowed her up. Full of humiliation, she squeezed her sleeve tightly with her fingers and said with pale cheek, I know my mistake. I should reflect on myself. Thank you, Your Majesty. One side of the Chenfei see the situation, where still can stand, quickly knelt down beside the Queen Lin. Your Majesty, my concubine, I didn't mean to say that, just remember wrong, I hope Your Majesty light punishment. Her forehead was so close to the ground that she seemed frightened to the extreme. The corner of the flower's lips on the street raised a touch of sarcastic radiance and said, Father, Empress Qin is the crime of slander. Emperor Baorong, as the king of a country, naturally could not be biased in front of the public. He immediately ordered with an angry face. Imperial concubine Qin deliberately slandered her, and she was immediately reduced to Jeyu. She was forbidden for a full year, and she could not be called out. Chen Fei smell speech whole person all paralyzed come down, lip petal tiny shiver, can't say a word. After the punishment, Baorong Emperor looked at Shu Fei again with a mild tone. Shu Fei, you will have to pay more attention to the 6 palaces in the future. Shu Fei hesitated a little and was about to refuse politely. Baorong Emperor seemed to see her mind and said, Don't ask for mercy. I'll give it to you only when I value you. I believe you can deal with it. Mo Shanghua silently tugged at the corner of Shu Fei's dress and whispered, Lady Shu Fei, I'm not grateful. Shu imperial concubine complexion of saw Mo Shang to spend one eye, then bend over to thank a favor, Minister concubine, thank your majesty. Baorong Emperor nodded and asked Lu Weng to help her up. His eyes turned around in the hall and finally fell on the flower on the street. What the immortal master said is true. You can really afford that kind of speculation. Baorongdi's eyes on the flowers on the street were a little appreciated, and his attitude towards her was quite different from before. The flower on the street hung down her eyes, stood upright, and her voice was neither humble nor overbearing. My father and emperor praised me falsely, but my son and minister couldn't bear it. Emperor Baorong gave a meaningful smile. He didn't worry too much about it. He said, "It's thanks to you that the empress didn't sit down to be confused and criticized. I'll give you 100 taels of gold and several boxes of gold and silver jewelry." "Thank you, Lord Long. On the street, there is no way to shirk. I kneel down to thank you very much." So really last time, she was very satisfied. After all, there are a lot of places where King Yu's house needs to use gold and silver in the future, and her property is not much. Naturally, the more gold and silver she can save, the better. After everything was explained, Baorong Emperor left with Shufei. As for this chrysanthemum appreciation meeting, it was also a particularly embarrassing ending. Of course, Emperor Baorong did not forget the disguised threat that the wives who came here today would not be allowed to spread it. However, the paper can't stop the fire, and the matter eventually spread widely in the official circle of the imperial city. Empress Lin stays in Cunning Palace day by day, which means that Baori can allow her. She has no face to meet people. Naturally, it's all in the future. At that time, Mo Shanghua was preparing to leave the palace. For the first time, she met Ning Tongji, who came into the palace. The flowers on the street and Ning know that at the same time, they suddenly step. The eunuch who passed by saw that both of them saluted separately. Mo Shanghua glanced over the palace maids who knew how to salute and said casually, "I haven't seen you for many days. The identity of the sun is very different. It's just a false name." Rather no astringent Maoa smile on the face of a school of light clouds. The flowers on the street were red-lipped, and they were smiling at him. If it is true, why can the Son of God trust His Majesty so much? And the illusory bird, can't it just be a cover-up? This kind of outspoken words, rather familiar with knowledge, was not half surprised and embarrassed, and said, "The princess thought it was a cover-up, so naturally it was a cover-up." This person really knows how to play Tai Chi. He neither admits nor denies what she says or asks. He is really cunning. Seeing this, I felt a little cold in my eyes. I didn't want to talk to him and say, "I want to go back to the palace and ask the sun to make way." Wait a minute. Rather no face but suddenly serious a few minutes, low voice call her. The flowers on the street are shining, and they keep on walking. Rather no to see, the face is not a bit anxious, waved his sleeve, a glimmer of light from his sleeve. Then, they saw a bird flying wings toward the flowers on the street, flying past. The flower on the street slowed down, and her eyes moved with the bird's track. Chinya, like a big enemy, stood up and stood in front of Mo Shanghua. She said warily, "Princess, you fainted that day. You should be more careful today." Mo Shanghua pulls Chinya behind her, holds her shoulder up and says with a smile, "I just want to see what it is. You don't have to worry." "But, princess, maidservant." Chinya's worries increased instead of decreasing. "Don't worry, it's in the palace. With so many eyes staring at me, the sun won't do anything to me." Mo Shanghua touched Chinya's hairy head and opened her mouth with a smile. Chinya just nodded, but her eyes were still a little worried, staring at the flowers on the street. Mo Shanghua came forward with peace of mind. She wanted to reach out to catch the bird, but as soon as she raised her hand, the bird automatically flew to her palm. A flash of white light, she only felt a bright eyes. The bird will be turned into a paper bird, spread out to sea. There is no content on the paper, only dense creases are particularly clear. Rao is already seen once, Mo Shanghua Mao or can't help but across a touch of surprise, in the mind suddenly flashed a segment. Vaguely, she is also such an action. A stabbing white light flashed in her hand, but the bird in her hand is more exquisite than the one in front of her. Who are you? Staring at the hands of the white paper for a long time, Emo Xianghua suddenly raised his head, fixed looking at rather no. Ning knows to slowly lift a step to approach, the lip cape holds a cloud-like breeze-light smile. I am me, however, if say the origin, you and I perhaps have some similarities. This time, the color of flowers on the street has completely changed. Ning knows that the eyes are so cool and not aggressive, but now they are like an all, full of insight. Emo Xianghua thinks for a moment that he seems to be naked and standing in front of him. He saw everything through. A strong uneasiness rose in the flower's heart. She came from a different world. No one knows about it except Yan Beiqing. Why would Ning know? Is there really such a mysterious divination in this world, or what kind of magic they say? Silent for a long time, the flowers on the street just opened their mouth, and their eyes were full of vigilance. What's the meaning of Xing Zi's words? Ning knows to lightly sigh a breath, on the face seemed to have some regrets. You rest assured, is not the meaning that you imagine, wait for the opportunity arrived you will know. What is he regretting? Emo Xianghua keenly catches the regret in Ning Jimu's eyes and becomes more confused and alert in her heart. Ning knew what he had seen, but he only had the slightest explanation. He took out the box that Xue Xue had sent last time and said, "Keep it. When the time is ripe, you can open it." There was no malice in his eyes, but it was as deep and unpredictable. The flower on the street frowned slightly. I just felt that the man in front of me was just like a few layers of fog. I couldn't see through anyway. Qinya recognized the box. Some vigilant pulled the corner of the flower on the street and said in a low voice, "Princess, the Lord didn't let you take it last time, so you should consider it carefully." Well, Emo Xianghua casually answered a raised hand to take over that box. Before I had time to ask a few questions, Ning knew that he had already turned around and left. His steps were as light and leisurely as before. He was more free and easy than anyone else in this palace. Emo Xianghua even thought for a moment that he might rather know that like him, he is not a person in this world, so he is indifferent to these things. But what's the explanation for his strange temptations? And what does that strange bird represent? Including the light and almost weightless box in her hand, what's in it? Princess, is there anything ominous in it? You have to be careful. I can't do it. I'll lock it up later. Emo Xianghua thinks all the way in her heart, and Qinya worries all the way. She can't help chatting with Emo Xianghua. Don't worry, it will be okay. Emo Xianghua pinches Qinya's white and smooth cheek and smiles at her. Qinya's slightly fleshy cheek was pinched by the flowers on the street, and her eyebrows were still tightly screwed up, which made her very lovely. Emo Xianghua sighs with a smile. Xiao Qinya, you are more and more water spirit now. Qinya's attention was diverted a little, her cheek was slightly hot. Princess, you make fun of me again. The flowers on the street smile, but there is no smile in the eyes. When he returned to the house and had a meal, Emo Xianghua used sleeping as an excuse to drive Qinya back to bed. He took out the box again and just studied it in detail. Although she had diverted Qinya's attention before, Qinya actually found the big wooden box and wanted to lock it in the box as soon as she returned to the mansion. She didn't say much in order to reassure her. Now she also took it out. If you look closer at the candlelight, there is nothing special about the box, not even any sign of the witch fairy clan. The carving outside the box is just ordinary. You can buy it on the street. The box was not locked. The flower in the street studied the box for a long time. After thinking about it, she reached out to open the box. However, it is clear that there is no lock, but I don't know why the box can't be opened. Don't understand, subconsciously tried again, but still no response. Is it forbidden in the eyes? Is it true that there is a fairy tale in this world? Emo Xianghua's heart gradually shakes, and he is more alert to Ning Tongji. It's really disturbing to see such a man lurking in front of Baorong Emperor. On the street, the eyebrows are tightly tightened, and all kinds of thoughts are changing in my heart. However, after thinking about it, she couldn't understand anything. She simply put the box in the bed and closed her eyes. If change to do as usual, Emo Shanghua heart thought so heavy, only on the bed will also be late to sleep. Today, on the contrary, she sleeps sweeter than ever. She had a dream again today. The dream that had not been dreamed for nearly half a month reappeared in front of her again. This time, the situation in the dream is much clearer, and their words are completely in front of us. In the endless darkness, a wisp of ghost floats and sinks quietly. Her eyes are very shallow and translucent. Her weakness seems to be swallowed by the endless darkness at any time. Cloud dance, cloud dance. Her eyes closed gently, but her heart was obstinately repeating a name, full of bitterness. Well, who asked me to promise her? A black-robed demon finally emerged from the vast reincarnation road. Who are you? Her voice was so weak that it seemed as if it would disappear in the next second. Yonya, who has a pretty face, can't hide his inborn strong breath. His approach makes her soul seem more and more weak. But she did not feel afraid. 100 years of company let her have been familiar with his breath. This is his first appearance in 100 years. Demon God looked at her. Her eyes are still no fear of death, but some are still persistent and bitter. What is the existence of kinship? The devil's eyes were as deep as an abyss, and his voice said in a low voice, I can fulfill your wish, but only if you have to pay for it, will you? To fulfill her wish? Is it? I am willing, no matter what the cost, I am willing. As long as she can see her daughter again, she is willing to do anything at any cost. Okay, I hope you won't regret it then. When the demon god brushed her hand, a black fog immediately shrouded her and attacked the whole reincarnation path, including the Kunlun mirror that could see the past and present life. Boom! The picture suddenly turned, but the demon god seemed to have exhausted all his efforts and essence, and her breath was several times weaker than usual. Before she had time to ask more questions, she was put into reincarnation by him. Yen Beiqing, who came back slowly, entered the room with ease, took off his shirt, lifted the veil, and was ready to sleep beside Emo Shanghua. I thought I would see the quiet, sleeping face of the flowers on the street, but I didn't think about it. Under the soft moonlight, what I saw was the frown locked and the cold sweat on the street. Not only that, her ruddy lips gently open, the mouth issued a few low gibberish. Yen Beiqing's face suddenly changed. He raised his hand nervously and stroked Emo Shanghua's forehead, but it was a cold and humid sweat. Emo, you wake up quickly. Full of worry, Yen Beiqing stroked Emo Shanghua's cheek with one hand, held her hand tightly with the other, and called again and again. Emo Shanghua didn't wake up. On the contrary, she held Yen Beiqing's hand tightly. Her eyes were moist, and her tears ran down her cheeks into her hair. I'm sorry. The babble in her mouth suddenly became clearer, and her body trembled slightly. Emo, what are you talking about? I'm here. Yen Beiqing was completely frightened by the appearance of Emo Shanghua. He said a few words without hesitation. He didn't care about anything at the moment and said in a loud voice, Come on. Don't go. Emo Shanghua suddenly shouts and suddenly opens her eyes. Qinya rushed in at this time, too. She didn't have time to fasten her clothes, and her hair was in a mess. I'm here, my lord. What's the matter? Qinya's voice had just fallen, and Emo Shanghua, who had come to her senses, gradually recovered. She took her hand out of Yen Beiqing's hand and sat up with her forehead in one hand. However, her eyes were not ignorant. On the contrary, she felt a deep silence. Emma, how do you feel, but you feel a little uncomfortable? Yen Beiqing grasped the slender shoulders of Emo Shanghua with both hands, full of worries, and some confusion that had not yet faded. I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. Seeing that Yen Beiqing was so worried, Emo Shanghua chuckled and turned her eyes to Qinya. Qinya, go back to sleep. I'm okay. When Qinya came, Emo Shanghua woke up and didn't see her terrible appearance. At this time, she didn't think much when she said so. She said, I'm outside. Please call me if you have something to do. As a close maid, Qinya sleeps in the ear room of the hospital every day for the convenience of being summoned by strangers. The door is closed by Qinya again, but Yan Beicheng suddenly leans over and hugs Emo Shanghua tightly in his arms. Emo Shanghua leng, and then also reached back to embrace Yan Beicheng, whispered, "I just talked in my sleep, scared you?" Yan Beicheng just hugged Emo Shanghua tightly and said nothing. It seems that only such close contact can make him feel at ease. For a long time, he slowly released the flowers on the street. A pair of quiet pupil is full of deep feeling. Dream of what? As if just asking people have useless food in general calm tone, but let people abnormal peace of mind. Emo Shanghua chuckled, raised her hand and stroked Yan Beicheng's eyebrows. "I can't remember, but I remember what you just looked like." With such a soft and clever appearance, Yan Beicheng's heart was burning. He could not help but droop his eyes and kiss her gently on her forehead. Not enough, it seems not enough. He bowed his head again, and after 2 successive kisses, he raised his head again, holding the cheek of the flower on the street and said, "If you dream of something bad, you can tell me that you don't have to worry." Emo Shanghua lowered her eyes, carefully recalled for a long time, still shaking her head, "I didn't cheat you, I really can't remember. What am I like just now? Is it like last time?" Yan Beicheng nodded, holding her shoulder tightly. "More than that, you don't know why you have been talking nonsense, I'm sorry." The flower eyebrows on the street suddenly frowned, half puzzled and half annoyed. Yan Beicheng couldn't bear to see Emo Shanghua look like this. He took her hand and pulled out a smile from the corner of his lips. "In fact, it's all right. The main reason is that you have been holding my hand tightly. It can be seen that you are in a dream, and you have only me in your heart." "Well, don't think about it. Go to bed early." The frowning brow of the flower on the street slightly stretched out, and he smiled slightly towards Yan Beicheng. He moved his body to make way for Yan Beicheng. Under this action, her waist and abdomen seemed to be hurt by a hard object, and she glanced down. It was the wooden box that he had temporarily placed on the bed. Could it be? Mo Shanghua's mind turned, and Yu Guang glanced at Yan Beicheng, who was lying beside him. He pushed the wooden box inside and put it into the quilt. Yan Beicheng is always relaxed around Emo Shanghua. He doesn't notice her move. After lying down, he takes Emo Shanghua in his arms and falls asleep together. This time, Emo Shanghua was sleeping very peacefully. Yan Emo kept his pen still for a long time, and the ink from the tip of the pen fell on the clean paper industry and stained another paper. In his heart, he was so depressed that he threw his writing brush into the brush washer heavily, and the ink color suddenly turned a side of water into turbid black. "Your Highness, calm down." After the bookcase in front of him, 2 counselors knelt on the ground, and one of them could not help but dissuade him. Another person also said, "Your Highness, the Empress is really reckless. I still think that you should not plead for her at this time." Yen Mo Li extremely irritable mouth, a pair of eagle eyes full of blood. "Then you want this king how to do? Now the Queen Mother is not only deprived of rights in the palace, but also of dignity. If it goes on like this, would it be better to let the lady and her son climb behind the Queen Mother? What's more, the Queen is a great support for him. If the Empress is suppressed to this point, he, the son of the Empress, will lose power greatly, and the trend of the central government will also change greatly. The most important reason is that he is the son of Queen Lin. Now the situation has reached such a point, how can he still sit? That bastard of Yan Beicheng has been fighting against me in the court all day, and he has been courting Shirsan again and again these 2 days. My father is angry with me because of my mother's reason, and he is always scolding me these 2 days. If I don't find a way to make my mother spoil me, what can I do? You say, what else? Referring to the events of these days, Yen Moli was full of anger, and his gloomy eyes almost turned into substance. A counselor was silent for a moment and said, "Your Highness, since you are worried about the affairs between King Yu and His Royal Highness 13, you should calm down and not plead for the Empress. Even if you are in the East, Your Highness needs to dredge up and let it only have the last 2 memorials. In the East, the Marquis is very powerful. Your Majesty will not abandon the Queen easily. In a short time, he will be depressed. Another counselor also agreed, that's right. He doesn't have nothing to do with His Royal Highness you. He has a plan here. If he waits for a while, he can order someone to play to His Majesty. His Highness will be able to have no worries then. As for His Royal Highness, he has always been in poor health. If he dies suddenly in the future, no one will be surprised. Yen Mo Li Mao bottom gloomy not only didn't disperse, but surged on a more intense killing intention. It's not only Yen Zhenxuan, Yen Beiqing's life, sooner or later the king will also accept. Among the princes, Yen Zhenxuan, who was favored by Emperor Barong, was the most annoying one. It's a personal talent for Yen Beiqing to get such annoyance from him. Get up. Since the two counselors had an idea, Yen Moli's attitude towards them was also relaxed. His face has returned to normal, habitual command-style tone. Yen Zhenxuan there, how, can you find out what? Don't worry, Your Highness, but they are all superficial things. It's not enough to be afraid. The counselor's face is full of confidence, and he has no worries at all. Finally, there is a more pleasant news. Yen Mo Li heart of boredom also followed scattered a little bit. Just about to ask something, a little guy at the door suddenly knocked on the door. Yen Mo's soared eyebrows slightly frowned, and his face was impatient to say, Tell Your Highness that the princess made the soup herself and said she wanted to give it to you face to face. The boy's careful voice came in. At the mention of Lin Xiangyin, Yen Mo's fierce eyes can't help but scratch a touch of disgust. At the thought of her chirping and sticky appearance, he feels irritable. When I went back to the princess, I said that the king was discussing business and couldn't get away. Impatient to return, Yen Mo Li and cold voice command away. Hereafter don't allow any person to step into my king's study at will. Yes. Outside the door, the little boy gave a trembling answer and went back with a sad face. When Lin Xiangyin, who was waiting outside, heard the boy's reply, she couldn't help feeling disappointed. Is cousin so busy? I haven't seen my cousin for several days. In this way, you can help me pass the message again. Said, turned a Mao to see one eye own intimate maid. The maid understood it and immediately took out a bag of silver and put it into the hands of the boy. But the little fellow, like a hot potato, stepped back 2 steps, full of embarrassment. Princess, when you can be so busy, you can embarrass the slave. Seeing this, Lin Xiangyin was quite dispirited. If she had been in the past, maybe she would have made some trouble. Today, she just bit her lip and turned around in disappointment. I'll come back later. The maid took back her purse and quickly followed her, comforting her. I heard that the Empress was reprimanded by Her Majesty in the palace today. Your Highness must be upset because of this. She certainly didn't mean to miss the princess. Lin Xiangyin forced herself to pull out a smile, but she couldn't hide her dispirited expression between her eyebrows and eyes. I know that my cousin has always treated me very well and won't treat me like that. Since she was punished by Emperor Barong, she has been in the mansion for nearly a month. Although Yen Moli is still the same to her as before, I don't know if she's very attentive. She always feels that she's not the same. I've seen her in the future these days. Although she was sad, she told herself that Yen Moli was not that kind of person. If she could go out, she would go to the palace to see her aunt and relieve Yen Mo's worries. It took Yen Zhenxuan only 1.5 months to hand over a fold to Emperor Baorong about the false lose case, making it clear that the matter had been thoroughly investigated. Mo Shanghua was clearly investigated in the case of murdering her mother. It was the false Lu family who deliberately framed her. As for the purpose of fake Lu's passing off Prime Minister Qianjin, it was finally concluded that it was the detailed work of the state of the moon, and the symbol on his body was the best evidence. In this way, everything is a result. Baorongdi was deeply gratified by this, greatly praised Yen Zhenxuan, and handed over the account department to his supervisor. Not to mention how good the Hubu is, but this move is one of the candidates who completely put Yen Zhenxuan into the crown prince. Yen Zhenxuan also did not refuse, immediately received the order to thank you. Yen Mo Li stands on one side to see if clear, The eagle Mao inside delimits A to put on a very deep kill idea. What's more annoying to Yen Moli is that Yen Zhenchuan has moved out of the palace and set up a mansion outside the palace. The secret chess he once played in Yen Zhenchuan's palace seems to have been detected and replaced one by one. Now, the whole 13 Princes Palace is airtight, and it's very difficult for him to play. Yen Beiqing and Yen Zhenchuan both put the overall situation first and abandoned the past. They often met in private to discuss. However, in order to hide people's eyes and ears, and also to confuse Yen Moli, it seems that Yen Beiqing, seeing that Yen Zhenchuan was highly appreciated by Emperor Baorong, intended to curry favor with him. The affairs of Chaotang were soon reported to Mo Shanghua by Yen Bei City. Yen Beiqing, gently holding the hand of Mo Shanghua, said, "Your past grievances have now been cleared. In the future, no one can criticize you with these things. It's really gratifying. It's hard for me to show some relaxation on the flower face." I look at Yen Beiqing with burning eyes. "I know you're also working behind your back. Thank you very much. Not only this matter, but also thank you for your willingness to help me in the past situation." Yen Beiqing grinned, a big smile on his lips, and his eyes were very gentle. "You don't have to thank me. If it wasn't for my actions that day, how could I marry such a good wife as you?" The corner of the flower's lips on the street was gently raised, and he wrung Yen Beiqing's white cheek with a smile, and said, "Don't say that. Has your Majesty been calling Ning recently? And you, the national teacher, have you ever entered the palace?" Yen Beiqing caught Mo Shanghua's hand and played with it. He said, "Emperor Baorong has a slight illness in the near future. He is more and more eager about the matter of longevity. He asks me to make some medicine for him every day. He would rather know it than know why. He can show him some mysterious things, that is, he is not willing to reveal anything about it. Emperor Baorong has not called him for several days. See him." Mo Shanghua nodded slightly, his eyes crossed a touch of complexity. "This man's mind is unpredictable. I think for a long time, now suddenly feel, his purpose may not be in the court." "How can I see it?" Yen North City slightly picks eyebrow, low voice asks away. Mo Shanghua's face was quiet and silent for a long time. Then he said, "If his mind were really on the court, the situation in the middle of the court would never be like this. With Yen Moli's personality, he will try his best to control Ning Tongji and use his presence to control Baorong Emperor. If so, Ning Tongji will try his best to win over Baorong Emperor. I'm afraid that you, the national teacher, will not be able to sit still at the moment. Yen Beiqing's name of National Master is better than his ability to observe the celestial phenomena, know the 8 trigrams, and refine pills. Naturally, it is not as eye-catching as Ning's fairy art. Emperor Baorong is now pursuing the art of immortality. Naturally, both sides are unwilling to let it go, but they never think about it. They are rather familiar with it, but they only show their hand occasionally, and they are not willing to teach him the art of immortality. Yen Beiqing's mind was penetrating and sensitive, and he didn't lose out on the flowers. He quickly thought about the reason. I'm afraid the origin of this man is not simple. I sent someone to the far north to inquire about it, but I didn't find anything. I know very little about the Wuxian clan, and I didn't even find the location of the Wuxian clan. In your opinion, what is his purpose? Yen Beiqing stopped his hand playing with flowers on the street, and his sword eyebrows were frowning. Mo Shanghua also frowned and shook his head. After thinking about it, he said, "He doesn't walk around like the officials in the court. The people in his hands are honest and peaceful. It's too mysterious. I don't know how many times I've thought about this matter, but I can't figure it out." I simply stopped thinking about it and said, "No matter what his purpose is, there's no bad news for us. The most important thing now is Yen Moli." Thinking of Yen Mo's cruel and insidious temperament, she was very worried. This man is cruel and has suffered many setbacks in recent days. He will surely fight back. You should pay more attention to him in recent days. Yen Beiqing nodded solemnly, holding the hand of the flower on the street slightly tight. "I've wronged you. I used to go out and walk when I was in Yuzhou, but now I'm locked in the inner house all day in the imperial city." The flower on the street gave a faint smile and said, I eat well and dress well in the house. I don't have to work hard. Besides being bored, it's okay. I have also thought that after a period of time, I will open a hospital in central Beijing. I can pass the time by visiting the clinic occasionally. The world doesn't have to be modern. There are mobile phones, computers, and other things that can relieve boredom. She's really bored recently, but it's better than the days when she used to lick blood at the edge of a knife. If not for their unstable foundation in the imperial city, she would have opened the hospital early. Yan Beiqing see, low smile will take flowers into his arms. This day I won't let you wait too long. They look at each other and smile. There is deep affection in each other's eyes. Since the clear dream of the dream seen that day, the flowers on the street will dream every day. She tried to put the wooden box away, but the dream stopped miraculously. As soon as she put the wooden box back to her pillow, the dream would go on again. Yan Beiqing was very busy in the imperial city. He often came back very late, sometimes too late, so he went to his study to sleep. He slept with the stranger for a few days, and it seemed that he was not affected by the wooden box. On the surface, everything was as usual. On the other hand, she does not only have the same dream every day, but also from the fifth day on, the scenes in her dream can be recalled when she is awake, and her modern affairs are played repeatedly in her mind. She also fell into a new confusion. The soul of the woman in the dream and the man in black were all dressed in the clothes of ancient people, but they didn't seem to be unique to people of this era. What's more, she was worried about the most mysterious things. She didn't know who the woman in her dream was, and she didn't know the identity of the man. She was very upset. Early in the morning, she simply took the wooden box to the tea house where she met Hua Qianlu before, and asked people to find Hua Qianlu. After waiting for 2 hours, the flower could not help calling the steward here. Your son has something to do today. Can't you come here? The steward's face flashed a bit strange color, but still nodded. The pavilion master has some things to deal with, and has not come to inspect the building in recent days. Mo Shanghua looked out of the window at the dark sky and stood up. When your son comes back, please tell him for me that I came. If so, you can rest assured. This person is worthy of being in charge of Hua Qianlu. He speaks and does things very well. After hearing the words of Hua, he immediately bows and answers with a smile. Mo Shanghua nodded slightly and took the wooden box to leave. She had already arrived at the door, but suddenly saw a carriage stopped at the corner of the street. A man was holding a woman in his arms and was in a hurry from the backyard. Mo Shanghua's eyesight is very good. She immediately recognizes that the person is Hua Qianlu, who has kept her waiting all afternoon. With a thought in her heart, she hurriedly followed in and said in a loud voice, "Lord," before finishing a sentence, you can see that Hua Qianlu has turned around in a hurry, and the face of the woman in her arms is clearly reflected in the eyes of the flower on the street. At the moment, Hua Qianlu's face is pale and her eyes are closed. The woman who doesn't move is not someone else. It's Nanha, who left the palace not long ago because she died of illness. Mo Shanghua's teasing, which had not yet been spilled out of his lips, was swept away. His fine eyebrows frowned tightly. He was surprised and worried. What's the matter? Hua Qianlu didn't have time to explain, and the thin sweat on his forehead showed his nervousness. Don't say so much, let me go in for treatment first, said, holding South Crane in a hurry into a room in the backyard. Seeing this, the steward in the building ordered him to burn some hot water and put on clean pajamas. As for the guests in the front yard, they were all sent away. The tea house closed its doors to thank the guests, and the people in the building were not allowed to go in and out at will. South Crane is flat on the bed, flowers on the street. This just see South Crane injury. Just now, he was hugged tightly by Hua Qianlu. Now he put it on the bed, and Mo Shanghua could see clearly. It turned out that Nanhe's left shoulder was injured, and it was full of dry blood. The clothes on his shoulder seemed to be cut off by a sharp weapon, and all the broken clothes adhered to the wound. Chinya, go back to the house quickly and get my medicine box. The flower on the street, with a dignified face, gives orders in a deep voice. Seeing this, Chinya immediately nodded and ran out with her legs. Seeing this, Hua Qianlu suddenly stopped Chinya and said, "I'll go with you," said, then pull Chinya's wrist, regardless of her reaction, pull her out of the room. After that, he didn't care to find a good horse anymore. He untied the horse in front of the carriage outside the door and took Chinya with him to gallop away. Emo Shanghua doesn't care how they go now. Her whole person all falls into a kind of extremely attentive, dignified state again. The language speed extremely fast command, go to prepare 2 ginseng slices first, then take scissors to come over. Hua Qianlu left, and the steward in the tea house was still there. Seeing that Hua Qianlu had just listened to the words of Emo Shanghua, now she told her to do it simply, and soon she had everything she needed. Mo Shanghua put the ginseng into the mouth of Nanha, hanging her life for her first, then took it and saw it, carefully and attentively cut the broken steps in the wound of Nanha. The whole sleeve was cut off by her, but the wound on her shoulder only showed 1/3, and the rest extended into her chest. Emo Shanghua's face was dignified, and she told him in a cold voice, "Leave 2 women to help, and the rest of the people will leave." The steward turned his head bitterly and cleaned up the house according to what Emo Shanghua said. All that was left in the room was flowers, and 2 maidservants who were left to help. Emo Shanghua had to cut the skirt of Nanhe's chest, which made the injury of Nanhe clear. The wound was a knife wound. It ran from the left shoulder to the left chest, and almost reached the heart. The skin and flesh of the wound rolled outward. The skin and flesh were split, and the blood was drenched. It was terrible. What's more important is that as soon as the extra clothes are cut, the blood will break through the shackles and flow out. Emo Shanghua busily points several acupoints of Nanhe, but it makes the blood flow slower. The tea house is in a prosperous place, and the palace is not far from here. Under the quick action, it soon came back. Hua Qianlu doesn't know what's going on in the house at this time. He enters the house in a hurry. Before the steward can stop him, he has already entered the house. For the convenience of handling, the clothes of Nanha were damaged by the flower scissors on the street, and the whole left arm was exposed. The wound was scarlet and dazzling, and the blood stain was gorgeous. It looked terrible. Such an exciting situation directly bumps into Hua Qianlu's eyes. His eyes are stabbed by Nanhe's blood, and he is stunned on the spot. The flower on the street stands aside to block the sight of flowers and willows. Where's Chinya? Here is the maid. Chinya came in breathlessly, holding Emo Shanghua's acupuncture knife bag in her hand. Flower 1000 willow, this just like reaction come over, put down the medicine box in the hand, then hurried out. You must save him. After a while, his worried voice came out of the door. Emo Shanghua didn't answer, so there was no time to guess Hua Qianlu's state of mind at the moment. Open the medicine box, and spare no effort to rescue. Nanha's wound is too deep. It's obviously impossible to stop bleeding only by simple bandaging. The flowers on the street give her hemp boiling powder and suture it with catgut. It took more than 2 hours for the medical treatment to come down. Flower willow seems to be more nervous than the flower on the street. When everything is handled properly and then called in, one eye is full of blood. There was no time to thank the flowers on the street. His eyes were full of Nanha, who was lying on the bed at the moment and had changed his clean clothes, but still pale and unconscious. When he was sober, he had a beautiful face, but he was always proud in his heart, and he always let people get close to him. Now she is very clever, even breathing seems to be much softer than usual. Wait, breathe? Flower 1000 Willow, greatly surprised, raised a hand to probe the nose breath of South Crane, haven't yet had time to move the hand, mercilessly shake, full face impatient. This is how to return a responsibility, isn't it, that she hasn't been out of danger? The flower on the street saw this, and her mind turned. When she reached her throat, her eyebrows were locked tightly. Her wound is too heavy. It's not sure whether she can survive this evening. Hua Qianlu's hands trembled at the same time. She wanted to reach out and caress Nanhe's cheek, but she was afraid of hurting her. She was at a loss for a moment, and her face was regretted and worried. Save her, I beg you. Flower Willow suddenly stood up, went to the front of the flower, tone almost humble. This pitiful appearance, let the stranger flower heart suddenly have a few, but still deliberately frown on the face, said, "Things are not as simple as you think. Now she lost too much blood, difficult to support, but I have a way, just need you to sacrifice yourself, with your own blood to enter her body." Flower Thousand Willow Mao Guanga Bright, then took a few minutes to doubt again, "Really have this method?" Mo Shanghua nodded solemnly, "It's just that the method is too dangerous. If it's not good, you will lose your life with Nan He." Flowers in the eyes of the thousand willows almost emit light. There is no fear on the face. As long as I can save her, I don't mind. After a pause, he looked down at the unconscious South Crane. His voice was particularly low. "This is owed to her, you say, how to do?" Mo Shanghua saw this, but Mu Lu was pleased. She patted him on the shoulder and said, "I'll tell you the truth, Lord. In fact, Nanha is not in any serious trouble now. It's okay to rest. Everything is normal except that he moves around at will." Flower Willow brow tightly twisted into a ball, eyes puzzled. "You just said that life is at stake?" Mo Shanghua's eyes flashed, touched his nose tip and said, "I just look at you like this. I want to test you." Finish saying, "Don't wait for Flower Thousand Willow attack." She hurriedly changed the topic. "Wei, South Crane is how to return a responsibility, why can get hurt?" Hua Qianlu clenched her fist and kept silent for a long time. After a long time, he looked up again, full of remorse. "She is with me to deal with things, for me to block a knife, will be so." The flower on the street frowned and sighed. "This is the choice of Nanha. You don't have to blame yourself. However, I would like to remind you that no matter how dissolute you used to be, you should take a closer look at the people around you in the future." The words are very meaningful. Hua Qianlu is not a stupid person. In addition to Hua's deliberate exploration, it is difficult for him to pretend to be stupid. Nanhe's saving each other with his life also moved his heart. The flower on the street saw that he hung his head and arranged what he was thinking. It was inconvenient to ask each other. She wrote a prescription and gave it to Hua Qianlu, saying, "She will wake up tomorrow, and I will come here these days. You don't have to worry too much. It's getting late, so I'll go back to my house for a while." He explained what he had to pay attention to when he was preparing to leave. "Wait a minute." Hua Qianlu stood up and called to Mo Shanghua. She said solemnly, "I have heard some news by accident. I need you to tell Yan Beiqing." On the street, the flower's face is slightly coagulated, and in the past, the flower willow whispers with her in a low voice. On the way back, the flowers on the street did not say a word, and their faces were dignified. Qinya was watching, but she didn't dare to ask any more questions. She just stayed with her. She knows the character of Mo Shanghua best. At this time, it's better to speak less. Even Mo Shanghua won't explain more. There are no other people in the palace now. The whole palace, under the guidance of Mo Shanghua, is respectful to her. As soon as Mo Shanghua comes back, they all come to see her. Mo Shanghua stopped in front of the guard at the door. "Has the Lord ever come back?" The bodyguard was very honest and shook his head. "Report back to the princess. The prince has not come back." Mo Shanghua nodded a little and walked into the palace. As she walked, she said to Qinya, "You order people to guard here. When the Lord comes back, please ask him to see me immediately." The bodyguards have their own affairs. They are not allowed to enter the house unless they are important. She can only give orders separately. Qinya nodded and wrote it down carefully. Mo Shanghua didn't have a problem with her body. She sent Qinya to dinner after she went back. She also used some of them, but she didn't wait hungry. After eating, she sat at the bedroom table, drooping her eyes and thinking, waiting for Yan Beiqing. What Hua Qianlu said to her just now really matters. She must discuss with Yan Beiqing as soon as possible. According to what he said, on a whim, he made a bet with Nanha today. He urged him to go to a general's house in the city to explore the secret. Originally, everything was going well, and I heard some unknown things. But I never thought that General Chen had excellent martial arts skills and discovered their existence. This is the scene now. The reason why they were detected was that they heard that General Chen had the heart of rebellion. General Chen is the father of imperial concubine Chen. General Chen was born in an ordinary family, and his fame came from a small soldier. When he was young, he worked under the queen's mother's family, Donglin Hao. Now Donglin Hao Lin is very kind to him. But General Lin, the son of the Marquis in the east, who is now stationed in the frontier, has a rebellious nature. He has always looked down upon General Chen, a man of civilian origin, and regarded him as a slave. He often yells at him, and he can't be reused in the frontier. A general, who can't hold real power outside, has been detained in the capital. In this way, General Lin has been stabilized for a long time head. Chen's daughter, the third prince's biological mother, Chen Fei, is also breathless by Empress Lin. Now she is under house arrest for Empress Lin's sake. Chen's resentment, which has been stifled for decades, can no longer be controlled, and his heart has been ready to move. In addition, Yen Moli has no sacred heart now. He wants to control most of the Forbidden Army in the imperial city by himself. He sits down to rebel and pushes the third prince to the top. Originally, Hua Qianlu came to inquire because of the high price paid by General Chen's opponent. He was afraid to hear that he was plotting this matter. However, now that General Chen sees that the matter has come to light, I'm afraid he will not deal with it so simply. Wait, General Chen has most of the Forbidden Army in the city? Mo Shanghua's face suddenly changed, suddenly stood up and walked out of the door. Qinya has been guarding the door, at this time to see the flowers come out, quickly asked, "The princess is something to explain?" The flower on the street just stopped, turned his eyes and stared at Qinya for a while, then shook his head and said, "There must be a big movement tonight. I'm afraid it's not safe over there. I'll go and tell you in person." With that, he would go forward. Qinya lung, and then reaction, a busy grasp of the arm of Mo Shanghua, urgent way, "Princess and so on, you and so on." The flower steps on the street pause, looking at Qinya's eyes with the color of inquiry. Qinya grasped the flower tightly and sighed, "Princess, the flower child is not stupid. He must have expected that. Besides, there is the whole Qinghuan pavilion behind the young Master Hua. How can he be found so easily?" Mo Shanghua smells speech, a little annoyed, patted his forehead. "I really confused." Qinya couldn't help but smile. "Princess, it's hard for you to be so confused." Mo Shanghua stares at Qinya, looks away as if nothing had happened, and changes the topic. "It's so late. Yen Beiqing doesn't come back. You go to the main gate with me. You always have nothing to do." Qinya nodded, turned and took a lantern. When they arrived outside the mansion, they did not see the shadow of Yenbei City. Instead, they ran into the night patrol of the Forbidden Army in the city. On weekdays, the Imperial City has a night patrol by the Imperial Army, but it's often after the time of the first 5 o'clock. Now it's an hour ahead of time. I think that General Chen can't sit still. What's going on? Qinya's mind is smart. She immediately goes forward and asks the guard at the door. "Miss Hui, it's said that the city is not peaceful recently, and the burglars are frequent. That's the reason why the police are strengthened. It's said that the night ban will be advanced these days." The guard said respectfully. The expected answer, Mo Shanghua was not surprised. She went forward and said, "Is there someone to take a message back, Lord?" The guard shook his head very much. Mo Shanghua eyebrows light. "See you, turn round to return to the mansion again, low voice way. Qinya, you say can be a dynasty hall up, what big event?" Qinya sighed and said, "Princess, how can the maidservant get in the court? Naturally, I don't know what happened. The frown on the street is tighter, and there is an uneasiness in my heart. Why is the princess still here so late? Just thinking about it, I heard a man's voice behind me." Mo Shanghua's steps stopped immediately. He turned to see that Yen Beiqing had stopped behind her. Half of the terrible, half of the handsome, peerless cheek in the light of the faint lights, showing a bit of fatigue. Mo Shanghua unconsciously quickened her pace and stepped forward, with some worry in her eyes. "I came back earlier 2 days ago. Why is it like this today? Is it a matter of going to court?" Yan Beiqing lips squeeze out a smile, conveniently pull the hand of Mo Shanghua, lift step to walk inside the pavilion in front. Seeing this, Qinya took off the lampshade outside the lantern, took out the candles, lit all the corner lights in the pavilion, and stood far away from the pavilion with the lantern. Mo Shanghua and Yan Beiqing sit down together. As usual, no matter how late he came back, Yan Beiqing always had a lot to say when he met Mo Shanghua. Most of them were teasing, but today he was obviously not in such a mood. Mo Shanghua held Yan Beiqing's hand tightly for a few minutes, and he was more impatient in his heart. You should speak quickly. Don't worry. It's not a big deal. Yan Beiqing gently held her hand, passed the temperature of his palm to her cool hand, and said, Today, just on the court hall, several ministers wrote memorials to the emperor, asking me to return to Yuzhou. Seriously? Mo Shangflower Mao inside penetrate a little doubt. Feel this matter is not simple from the exhaustion of Yen North City. I can't hide it from you. Yan Beiqing could not hide it. He sighed a little and said, Yen Moli has been planning for a long time. In addition to these, he also listed that I have been garrisoning troops outside the imperial city and plotting against others. Now several ministers have asked the emperor to punish me severely. The flower's face sank a little in a moment. She took out her hands and got up to pace slowly. Her eyes crossed a little thoughtfully. When Yan Beiqing saw this, he was also afraid that she would worry too much. He pulled out a smile and said, But you don't have to worry. Things have not been so bad. Recently, I gathered several ministers in the court. They interceded for me, and the emperor just kept the memorial in the middle. After a pause, his eyes flashed a touch of dark, like a sharp arrow suddenly out of the body. Yen Moli is imperative this time. I think it will continue to play tomorrow, but I am not such a useless person. I will not be at his disposal. In terms of etiquette and law, Yan Beiqing, as a vassal, came to the imperial city to admonish the emperor and escorted him with some of his own soldiers. Before that, there was no precedent to be found. The most embarrassing thing was that Yan Beiqing did not leave after living for a month or two, and these soldiers had to have a place to be resettled for tough problems. The flowers on the street drooped their eyes and pondered quietly. Their thoughts changed a lot. Suddenly they asked softly, Can Yan Sinshuan help? What does Yan Moli look like? On the face of Yan Beiqing he was calm without any panic. He wanted to do something. I was afraid to scare the snake, so I planned to solve it by myself. As for Yan Moli, he is calm and still pleads for me in front of the emperor. At the end of the day, his eyes were cold. The flowers on the street nodded slightly, then paced and thought carefully. Yan Beiqing didn't want to see her so hard and vexed. He went forward and put her in his arms. He said in a low voice, I already have a way to deal with it. You don't have to worry. Mo Shanghua turns around, and the distance between them is just a short distance. Yan Beiqing can clearly see the worries in her eyes. Yan Beiqing felt more and more distressed, and pressed the whole person of Mo Shanghua into his arms. I've ordered people to temporarily place those soldiers in the barracks outside the city. They're my people in Beijing. As for those compromises that let me go back, I have my own way to deal with them. You just need to stay in the palace every day to enjoy your leisure. In front of the chest strong and powerful, heart sound is particularly steady. Also let Mo Shanghua restless heart calm down. However, she is not just a little girl hiding behind her husband. Thinking of this, she raised her head and looked at Yan Beiqing. Her eyes were full of obstinacy. I have to face it with you. Seeing her appearance, Yan Beiqing couldn't help raising his hand and stroking her forehead. He sighed, I just love you for working hard for me. I don't despise you. Don't think much about it. I know your mind. As a matter of fact, Mo Shanghua didn't want to be so affectionate. He pushed Yan Beiqing away and said, I went to Lai Hua Qianlu today. He told me a secret. Maybe I can make good use of it. If you control it properly, it will not only help you out, but also greatly improve your current situation. See his complexion so earnest, Yen North City also accepted daughter's sentiment long, say a little more clearly. Mo Flower Mao Guang swept one eye in all around. Yenbei City immediately understood, slightly raised his voice, Mo Ling. Mo Ling didn't show up, but the flower on the street clearly felt that there were several more breath around, which should be someone's guard in the dark. Chinya turns around and takes a look at the couple in the pavilion. She is standing far away with a lantern. For cleanup, on the street flower heart slightly brewed some time, voice deep mouth. General Chen has anti-heart. Yen North City sword eyebrow immediately tightly Siu rises, in the eye peep out a few minutes dignified. Really? Mo Shanghua gently nodded, sorted out what he heard today and his thoughts, and said, Hua Qianlu and Nan He were discovered by General Chen because they had heard about it. Nan He was seriously injured, but fortunately they didn't reveal their identities. If you just look at the movements of the Imperial Guards in the city today, you can guess one or two. General Chen now wants to help the third prince to the top. Yen Beicheng's phoenix eyes changed quickly. In a short time, dozens of thoughts had already passed in his heart, and he couldn't help saying, General Chen, have you been dazzled? The third prince's talent is ordinary. Today's emperor is still healthy, and Yen Moli in the court is also covetous. How dare he do such things? The great crime of treason should be punished. Not to mention the strength of General Chen, it is with him and Yen Mo Li, the success rate of this matter will be more and more reduced. Mo Shanghua's face is the same as Yen Beicheng's, but at the same time, it's a bit bright. I've checked, he's just out of breath by Yen Mo's Limu family, so I want to take advantage of this opportunity. After a pause, she thought deeply at the bottom of her eyes. However, as you said, I think there may be more strange things in this matter. If not, there must be something behind it. That's why General Chen, who has always been the mean, suddenly got this idea. I think it's time to pay more attention to it. Yen Emoli did not answer. A pair of phoenix eyes flashed deep meditation. This matter is too sudden not to say. It is full of doubts. I am afraid there is a bigger conspiracy behind it. Do you know when General Qin is going to do it? Yen Beicheng suddenly turned his head and opened his mouth with a dignified face. The flower on the street nodded slightly. If the willow is not found, it will be less in March and more in a year. Yen Beicheng turned his head again and stood with a negative hand. He did not know what he was thinking. Mo Shanghua sits on the stone chair in the hall, also drooping his eyes and meditating. A thought suddenly passes in his heart, and Mo Shanghua suddenly rises up. Is it Baorong Emperor who is not fit now? His successor has already been determined in secret? Yen Beicheng's idea that he had been floating in his heart was lit up in an instant. He turned around and his eyes were heavy. It's very possible. However, he has not summoned me for some time. That's because he temporarily placed his hope on Ning Tongji. I believe that before long, he will surely summon the national teacher. If so, it will be true. Mo Shanghua's mind gradually unfolds, and the analysis of the whole thing is clear and clear. After a pause, she continued, if it's really so, I'm afraid that the real one Baorong Emperor wants is Yen Zhenxuan. The recent changes to the queen are not only for superficial reasons, but also for clearing the way for Yen Zhenxuan. Speaking of this, the flower on the street sighed. Unexpectedly, the person who didn't want to sit in this position is the one Baorong Emperor is looking forward to most. Yen Beicheng didn't open his mouth. His whole cheek was tight, and his whole body was as cold as entering a very cold place. Mo Shanghua Mei Xen jumped hard, took the initiative to hold his hand, and said in a soft voice, this matter has not been decided yet. Don't be too impatient. Besides, Yen Zhenxuan doesn't want to sit in this position. I'll help you with all my strength. Yen Beicheng didn't speak. The tight corners of his lips softened a little and held her hand tightly. Cold seems to pass through the palm of the hand to the hands of flowers. Mo Shanghua let Yen Beicheng hold his hand tightly and said, you don't have to be eager. There is a long way to go. What belongs to you will never be taken away. The most important thing now is to deal with Yen Mo first. She seemed to have an idea in her heart, and her voice became more and more calm. You are ordering your people in the court to help you delay for a few days, and I will try to make you stay in the palace honestly. But Yen Beiqing shook his head and finally said, I don't want to let you risk. You can rest assured that I have a way to deal with it. You just need to stay in the palace peacefully. If all your conjectures are justified, I will try to send you back to Yuzhou first. Yuzhou is the safest place at present. Before she had finished her sentence, Yen Beiqing interrupted her directly and could not refuse. Mo Shanghua's beautiful face was filled with anger, and even his voice was frozen. Yen Beiqing, I have told you many times that I am not the one who is greedy for life and afraid of death. Now that you are in danger, you want to send me back to Yuzhou. What's the truth? Yen Beiqing looked at her helplessly, raised his hand to caress her cheek. But Yen Beiqing directly tilted his head to avoid, and said in a cold voice, I am a husband and wife with you. If anything happens, no one can escape. No matter what happens, I have to face with you. Don't try to push me away, I won't leave easily. All the insistence of Yen Beiqing suddenly disintegrated, and his whole heart softened. I know, Emma, I underestimated you, I was wrong. From now on, you and I will be husband and wife, and we will never leave until we die. The last sentence, he said very seriously, in the past deep cannot see the look of the eyes, but now will be full of eyes of the deep and serious all revealed in front of the flowers. The anger in Mo Shanghua's heart disappeared, and her voice softened, I only want to live and die with you. Yen Beiqing quietly embraces the flowers in his arms. His heart has been filled with a kind of extremely warm and happy emotion. He can no longer hold any emotion beside him. On the next day in the court hall, yesterday, he wrote a memorial to the 2 imperial censors of Yanbei City, which is a good example of perseverance. Today, another person wrote a memorial to continue to serve Yanbei, and he continued to garrison troops and plot against the rule. Yen Beiqing was not afraid. He spoke in his heart and went forward directly. He said with reasonable reasons, Tell my father, my son is a vassal and he has thousands of bodyguards under him. I really don't understand why they can't get by with my son. Yesterday, my father has stayed in China, but today he is so persistent and continues to play. You are sophistry, you are mischievous. One of them became angry when he was angry. Yen North City is not in a hurry, meaning to point to a way. If so, the second emperor elder brother is also a vassal now. Why don't you see the second emperor elder brother? Drive the second emperor brother to the vassal. As we all know, Yen Moli, the vassal, had no name but a fiefdom. Isn't it embarrassing for Yen Beiqing to say that in public? Sure enough, Yen Moli's face was a bit gloomy with the speed visible to the naked eye. However, in the presence of Emperor Barong and his ministers, he could not turn his face over. Thinking of this, Yen Moli forced himself to soften his face and said, I'm afraid I don't know that the 5th emperor's younger brother is often in Yuzhou. I don't know that the king has no fiefdom now, so I don't have to worry about it. Oh dash, Yen Beiqing suddenly realized. The censor quietly glanced at Yen Mo's gloomy face. His forehead was cold and sweaty, and he did not dare to say a word. Another censor was more courageous and wise. He went forward and said, In any case, it's an indisputable fact that His Highness King Yu has been stationing troops. At present, the whole world is peaceful and the imperial city is stable, but His Highness King Yu has made such a move. His heart is clear. Please punish him severely. As soon as the words fell, the minister of the Ministry of War came out and said, I inform your majesty that I ordered people to go to check yesterday. There is no garrison outside the city. Baorong Emperor's eyes suddenly flashed an amazing color of suspicion. The censor immediately knelt down in fear. I don't dare to make a false statement. Please tell me. When Yen Beiqing saw this, he took no time to explain. I told my father that although my son-in-law had no disobedience, for fear of suspicion he had to exile my son-in-law's bodyguards a little further away, and they were stationed next to General Chen's forbidden camp. Now it should have arrived. General Chen, standing at the end of the courtiers, suddenly shook his hand and his eyes sank. Barong Emperor heard the speech, and then he said, "In this case, this matter need not be discussed." With Barong Emperor's words, people naturally did not dare to say anything more. They all stopped. Yen Moli then stood on the side of Yen Beiqing. After hearing the words of Emperor Barong, his hand immediately clenched and his eyes were full of gloom. From the beginning to the end, Yen Zhenchuan was still standing at the end of several people, hanging his eyes and saying nothing. What's difficult is that in the past, he would cough twice every now and then when he went to court, but now this kind of situation is even less and less. His face was getting better day by day. With the sharp voice of the eunuch, Emperor Baorong got up and left, and all the ministers had to kneel down to see him off. When all the courtiers dispersed, Lu Weng went forward and said with a smile to Yen Zhenchuan, "Your Majesty, please leave the 13 princes and go to the imperial study for a talk." Yen Zhenchuan was still smiling and nodded gently. "Thank you, Mr. Lu." Lu Weng Chao Yen Zhenchuan's smile very respectful, smile to get out of the way, "Your Highness, please." Seeing such a situation, Yen Mo Li's hard eyes seemed to drip water. Yen North City sees this, but is a face indifferent of gather together to come over, 2 Huang elder brothers. Yen Mo Li slightly asteringed his eyes and pressed down the gloom at the bottom of his eyes. "What's the matter with the 5th emperor's younger brother?" Facing Yen Moli, Yen Beiqing smiles politely and perfunctorily and says, "Brother Huang, when I first came to Chaozhong, I didn't expect to do that. I'm really scared. Brother Huang has been immersed in Chaozhong for many years, and we are brothers again. Can you ask Brother Huang to help me?" Then, without waiting for Yen Mo Li's consent, he bowed deeply, and the whole person was bent to 90 degrees. Yen Mo Li's face was green and white. He resisted the impulse of kicking Yen Beiqing away, and raised him up in surprise. "It's only 2 years since I joined the court. I'm very familiar with many things. How can I guide you?" The 5th emperor's younger brother is still quick to get up. "If my father sees it, he will blame me." Yen Beiqing's sword eyebrows were tightly twisted into a ball, and his face was full of distress. The 2nd emperor's elder brother has been in the court for 2 years. What about the 3rd emperor's elder brother? So far, I dare not say a few words about that rubbish. Yen Mo Li sneered in his heart and sighed on his face. "Brother Wu Huang, you'd better ask for your own happiness." With that, he patted Yen Beiqing on the shoulder symbolically and walked out. Yen Beiqing turns around and looks at Yen Mo's stride, and his lips start slowly. What Mo Shanghua expected was good. Not long after Emperor Baorong summoned Yen Zhenchuan, he summoned the national teacher again. When the national master entered the palace, he happened to meet Yen Zhenchuan head-on. Before going, Yen Zhenchuan's face was as usual, but now he is a little strange, which makes people feel strange. The national teacher soon understood the reason. Baorong Emperor, who had just been in the court hall, was still in high spirits and planning strategies, but now he was sitting on the dragon chair with a gloomy face. The national master quickly raised his eyes and glanced at Emperor Baorong. He lowered his head again. "See you, Your Majesty." A national teacher should not be polite. Baorong Emperor did not despise the treatment of national teachers because of the existence of Ningji. Lu Weng followed Baorong Emperor for most of his life. He had known Baorong Emperor's nature for a long time. At this moment he came forward with a seat. Looking at Emperor Baorong's gentle face, the national master said thanks and sat down with a sneer in his heart. "I don't know how many times better my own son is than his outsider." Just thinking about it, Emperor Baorong's voice came in slowly from before the case. "Master, do you remember what I told you before?" His voice was much slower than that above the court hall, and he was a little old. If you think about it carefully, Baorong Emperor's age is not small. Now he is 49 years old and over the age of Zhuang. The national master glanced at Baorong Emperor's white hair and said, "I remember that I have lived up to your Majesty's trust." As he spoke, a boy came forward and presented a box about the size of a palm. Lu Weng took it and presented it to Emperor Baorong. I saw a white pill lying quietly in the small brocade box. Baorong Emperor's eyes suddenly brightened, and his whole body seemed to have energy. He held the brocade box tightly in his hand, and his voice was excited. Can this thing really live forever? The national teacher heard the speech, slightly drooped his eyes. This pill can only prolong life, but it can't satisfy the function of immortality for the time being. The excitement in Baorong Emperor's eyes was suddenly poured down by a bucket of water, and it was completely extinguished. After a while, the light in his eyes changed for a long time. Suddenly he sat up straight and said, "I'm coming to Xianing Immortal Master." The national teacher's face changed slightly. He went to dissuade the unborn and just sat and waited. Ning knew that he came here soon after receiving the imperial edict and went forward to salute slowly, but Emperor Baorong did not give him a seat as usual. Immortal Master, now the national master has been able to develop pills to prolong life. I know you are in a dilemma. In this way, you can study them together with the national master, only give advice from the side, and don't use them for other purposes. It must not be against the will of your Wuxin clan. Baorong Emperor made no secret of his purpose and said it in a tone that could not be resisted. Rather familiar with the words, but half hesitated, only said, "Your Majesty, please forgive my incompetence, can't do my best for your Majesty." Baorong Emperor's face darkened with the speed visible to the naked eye. In his voice, he said politely, "Are you determined not to help me? Master Ning Xian, I have given you many opportunities. Do you have to be so stubborn?" Ning knew that he had no fear on his face, and he was calm and fearless. "I'm not stubborn, but it's too bad for me to deal with. All things in the world have rules and regulations. If they are forced to change them, they will be punished by heaven." Up to now, Yan Beiqing's heart just appreciates the inner voice of Ning Zhizhi. Emperor Baorong has been away for many years, and he has already developed the disposition of saying one thing but two things. Anyone who disobeys him will never come to a good end. He would rather know than be afraid. And it doesn't seem to be the first time. It seems that he is also a brave man. However, what is his intention? The doubt in Yan Beiqing's heart had just whirled by, and the Emperor Baorong suddenly smashed down a paper town. Seeing that the paper town was about to fall on Ning Tongji's shoulder, he dodged, and his face was still modest. Baorong Emperor's face looks as black as the bottom of a pot. Even when Yan Beiqing saw it, he could not help admiring it in his heart. This rather knows what is mad, dare to let Baorong Emperor lose face in front of others. How can Emperor Baorong endure such humiliation as a king? Good, good, good. Emperor Baorong was so angry that he laughed back. The flame in his eyes almost swallowed Ning Tongji alive. However, he seemed to have some scruples in his heart. He sneered for a long time and said, "Master Ning Xian disobeyed me. I will drive him out of the palace from now on. I will never enter the palace for eternity." If you were someone else, you would have been pulled out and chopped. This kind of punishment is indeed a light punishment for Ning Tongji. There is no accident in Yanbei City. It must be that Emperor Baorong had scruples about the mysterious family of Wuxin. Otherwise, he would not be soft-hearted. In looking at Ning, he didn't even raise his eyebrows and eyes, and the radiance of his lips was as old as before. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Then, without waiting for Baorong Emperor to order people to come, he turned and left by himself. Yan Beiqing looked at Ning Tongji's free and easy figure, but there was no joy in his heart. At the moment, he realized that the scene was that Ning Tongji deliberately angered Baorong Emperor. Why did he leave so suddenly? What is his purpose in doing this? National teacher. After a period of anger, Baorong Emperor's whole cheek was burned. His face was red, and he was a little tired between his eyebrows and eyes. "You step down first, I will continue to call you tomorrow." "I will leave." Yan Beiqing stood up and bowed his head slightly. As usual, after leaving the imperial palace, he came from the secret road of the imperial palace. In exchange for the identity of Yan Beiqing, he went back to the palace of Qingyu. Mo Shanghua got up quite early today and had been waiting for Yan Beiqing to go to court. As soon as he came back, he held back everyone and sat opposite each other. Yan Beiqing was half handsome and half evil, and his face was as good as blood. It's no different for the emperor to be on the court. After going down to the court, he first summoned Yen Zhenchuan, and then summoned the national teacher and Nanning Jiji. He told what happened today in detail with Emo Shanghua. Emo Shanghua's face was dignified. She asked in a low voice, "Has Emperor Baorong called the imperial doctor to give advice recently?" Yen Beiqing nodded slightly and said, "I went to the imperial palace today to see if someone had gone to the imperial hospital to inquire. He called the imperial doctor only 3 days ago. In the past 200 years, even the imperial doctor who asked for a safe pulse could not get close to him. He just said that he was busy and had no time." Emo Shanghua's conjecture seemed to have been carried out, and her tone was especially positive. Baorong Emperor's body must have gone wrong, but... Her tone turned slightly, and her eyes were a little confused. General Chen can't be reused, and even the chance to see His Majesty is very little. How did he know about it? Yen Beiqing is also confused, but one thing is very sure. This matter is certainly not as simple as you and I imagine. It's only because someone is behind the scenes that it will be so. Is it Yen Moli? Emo Shanghua has 100 thoughts in her heart. A guess surges into her heart and is soon snuffed out by herself. After him, there is already a family of Eastern Marquis in the rear, and there are many old ministers in the court to support him. His power has been deeply rooted in the court, so there is no need to do so. What's more, he won't push the third prince to the top. On the other hand, the blow to you can't be so small. Yen Beiqing habitually took Emo Shanghua's hand, grinned at her and said, "Don't think about it carefully if you can't figure it out for the time being. I'll ask someone to explore again. It doesn't need to be like this. The person behind it will be exposed sooner or later." Emo Shanghua's delicate jaw was slightly touched, but his contemplation was not reduced. Things have come to this point, and the emperor's mind has been settled. Now it's time for us to act. Yen Beiqing's deep and secluded eyes were filled with clouds and mist on the upper layer. They kept rolling and growing, and could not see clearly. After a long time, he sighed softly, "It's finally the day." Emo Shanghua clenched his hand, eyes firm. "In any case, I will accompany you through this moment." Before Yen Beiqing had time to express his emotion, he heard the voice of the young man outside the door. "Your Highness, the 13 rings are here." Yen Beiqing and Emo Shanghua looked at each other, and then Yen Beiqing said, "Please go to Pianting, I'll go with the princess." Naturally, Yen Zhenchuan and Yen Beiqing came to discuss important matters, but unexpectedly, Emo Shanghua was also brought out. He didn't look down on women, but there were few women involved in this kind of court affairs. He was really confused in his heart. "Brother Wu Huang, you are." Yen Beiqing held the hand of Emo Shanghua tightly, and with a faint smile, his eyes were filled with pride. "Your sister-in-law is the king's military advisor, so naturally, you want to come together." Yen Zhenchuan looked at the hand they held for a moment, then quickly looked away. The feelings of the emperor's brother and sister-in-law are really enviable. Yen Beiqing straightened himself up. He was very helpful in his heart. He even pretended to be modest. "Brother Huang, we are just ordinary couples." Yen Beiqing's careful thinking can't hide from Emo Shanghua. She can't help freeing her hand and wring it around his waist. Yen Beiqing's face was as old as before, smiling at her very gently. "Princess, please take a seat." Emo Shanghua angrily took a look at Yen Beiqing and sat down. Yen Beiqing sat down next to her, kneaded the tender meat on his waist quietly, and glanced at the flowers on the street with resentment. The flower on the street looks at the front, full of solemnity, and seems to disappear. Yen Zhenchuan coughed lightly. He picked up the teacup on the table and fiddled with it. Until now, he was still a little unwilling in his chest, but also scattered completely. Emo Shanghua couldn't see such an embarrassing situation. She took the lead in breaking the silence. "Now that we have decided to work together, I'm not beating around the bush." Yen Beiqing also took in a smile, sitting upright, with a serious look on his face. Yen Zhenchuan also put down his teacup for the time being, and the embarrassment on his face was swept away. Seeing this, Emo Shanghua's face became calm. She looked at Yen Zhenchuan and said, I heard that my father emperor summoned his younger brother alone after the lower court today? Yen Zhenchuan didn't mean to hide it. He said frankly, "Yes, my father saw me today. He just asked me about my opinion on the case of Brother Wu, but there was no other side." Flowers on the street nodded slightly, eyes stained with a touch of thinking. Yanbei City's deep eyes are a clear, Yu Wei. Think about it, the emperor is the hope placed in your body. Yen Zhenchuan was a little uneasy and puzzled. What does Brother Wu mean by that? Yen Beiqing was also very calm and told him what he knew one by one. Your sister-in-law and I got spies a few days ago. I'm afraid there will be a big mess in the imperial city. General Chen intends to plot a rebellion and help the third brother to be in the upper position. Yen Zhenchuan suddenly stood up, full of shock. How can it be so? You don't have to get excited first. Yen North City is not anxious, not slow to continue away. Everything is because of Father Huang's body may have what problem. Before Yen Zhenchuan's shock faded, he was shocked again by the news in the mouth of Yanbei City and could not speak for a long time. Yen Beiqing turns his eyes and takes a look at the street. The two people's eyes meet, but they have no words. Give Yen Zhenchuan some time for a while. For a long time, Yen Zhenchuan slowly sat back. Although the shock on his face had been postponed, his anxiety could not be concealed. Is it true? How do you know? He refrained from asking again. Seeing this, Mo Shanghua nodded in affirmation and said, "If anyone who hears this news is accidentally found, this matter will surely be postponed. If this matter is false, why do you think the imperial guards in the city suddenly start to investigate it? If it had been in the past, Yen Zhenchuan might not have known about it. But now he lives in the city and enters the imperial court. He doesn't want to know about the imperial city, and someone will come into his ears." Thinking of this, he clenched his fist slowly, and his face became more dignified. The third emperor brother didn't look like such a man of wolf ambition. How could he do that? Yen Zhenchuan is really a stranger. Mo Shanghua sighed silently in her heart. She really didn't want to explain much, so she said directly, "Now when we don't know the reason, the situation has gradually become clear. Your Majesty has great expectations for you. Yen Mo is eyeing you, and General Chen is dormant behind you. It's really not optimistic." Yen Beiqing took the words of Mo Shanghua and continued, "The most urgent thing is to remove the two hidden dangers. I have a plan with your sister-in-law at the moment. I just need your help." Yen Zhenchuan's Mao Guang looked at them deeply, clenched his hands tightly, and didn't speak for a long time. The look in his eyes has always been warm and calm, but now there is a strong struggle. Yen Beiqing and Mo Shanghua both see the hesitation and struggle in his eyes. Mo Shanghua, as an outsider, really doesn't know how to speak. There was a touch of irony in the phoenix eyes of Yanbei City. The corners of his lips were smiling, but they were full of coldness. "Brother Shizenwang, things have come to today's situation. What can we worry about? Can't you see clearly what's going on in today's court hall? It's not the censors who want my life, but Yen Moli. Why are there several other brothers in the court who dare not say a word? Do you really think they have no desire to fight for the crown prince? You have been ill for many years, but you are getting better when you move out of the palace. Do you really think it's providence? In the royal family, as the prince, there are some things that you have to do. If you don't want to, someone will push you here, forcing you to do so. It's common for you to fight with each other. If you don't fight with each other, you're afraid that tomorrow's sun won't be seen." Although the words were extremely fierce, Yen Beiqing's eyes were cold. Compared with Yen Zhenchuan, Yanbei City is the most miserable one. From the day he was born, he was disgusted by the birthmark on his face, and even his mother and concubine died. Even now, although Beirongdi seems to have relaxed his attitude towards him, he still doesn't pay attention to him in his heart. Mo Shanghua silently looks at Yen Beiqing with cold eyes, gets up and walks to him, gently holds his hand, and his voice is gentle and heavy. "Yen Zhenchuan, you are not qualified to escape when you are in the royal family. Otherwise, you will send the butcher's knife to others, and you will give up the opportunity to revenge for her. Yen Zhenxuan was silent for a long time. He clenched his fists tightly, and the tendons on the back of his hands burst up. The cheek of the flower on the street made his heart tangled and painful. Such familiar eyebrows and eyes. It is because of this competition for imperial power, so that she can no longer show that familiar gentle smile. He didn't resent the flowers on the street. He only hated the people behind him and the struggle for imperial power. Thank you for your trouble. I know what to do. Yen Zhenxuan suppressed all the resentment in his heart, and suddenly raised his eyes. His voice was as warm as usual, but it was especially firm. The first step is to spread the news. Yen Zhenxuan raised his eyes slightly, and a look of surprise flashed in his eyes. Emo Shanghua and Yen Beiqing look at each other, and there is a smile in their eyes. Hua Qianlu is really very intelligent. When Emo Shanghua visits the tea house later, he will not be in the tea house. As soon as she arrived, the steward led her out to take a carriage and all the way to an ordinary house in a civilian residence. As soon as you enter the house, a faint fragrance of medicine will rush into your nose. Hua Qianlu, who has always been rich in gold and jade, took the medicine bowl in person and sat by the bed to feed the medicine to Nanhe. As soon as I saw the flowers coming, the flowers were calm, but the South Crane choked himself and coughed. Hua Qianlu put down the medicine bowl and patted Nanhe's back gently. He complained in a low voice, I don't want to say hello first. Look at the discrimination. Emo Shanghua himself found a place to sit down and said with some teasing, when did the lord of the pavilion know how to be compassionate? After a pause, he sighed. Not only that, but also such a person who values color over friends. Hua Qianlu snorted calmly, without shame. I just like Nanhe now, and she is hurt for me. Naturally, I should make up for it. South Crane just eased some of the more severe cough. Pale face gushed a suspicious blush. Flower willow, you nonsense. Emo Shanghua couldn't help laughing. Seeing them, they were very pleased and amused. Nanhe, I'm very happy to see you like this. In any case, you don't have to fall in love like before, and you don't have to be alone for the rest of your life. Before Nanhe could speak, Hua Qianlu raised her lips and boasted, I'm so handsome and I'm so romantic. Every woman will bow down under my boots. This time, before the flower on the street opened its mouth, the crane slapped it. But the injury on her shoulder is not good, which will inevitably affect the wound. Blood suddenly seeped out through the thin clothes, pale. Flower willow face of the color of fun when the convergence of a clean, nervous forward to hold her, but involved in the wound? Xiaoma flower. Don't worry. A word has not finished. Emo Shanghua has come forward to check. Look attentive, you avoid. Hua Qianlu grabs Nanhe's clothes with his fingertips. The worry in his eyes almost overflows his eyes. Fortunately, he is not the one who dawdles. He soon gets up and goes around the outer room. Emo Shanghua just sat down in Hua Qianlu's position. With her green fingers, she untied Nanhe's skirt flexibly, revealing her thin shoulders wrapped in bandages. On the bandages, there was blood. Without saying a word, Emo Shanghua took apart the bandage and bandaged the wound medicine for Nanhe again. Looking at the enemy in front of him, he was so serious about dealing with his wounds. Nanhe felt very sad. I didn't expect that you and I would have such a day. I think it's the limit to live in peace with you under the same roof. Emo Shanghua's hands kept moving, but he laughed and said, Don't think it's your own reason. In order to return the favor of Hua Qianlu, I don't want to treat the injury of your wife. South Crane even ear lobes are red. Pianxing also pretended to be calm face. And he blocked a sword, but look at the Lord's face, there is no other reason, I am not what pavilion lord lady, you don't want a nonsense. However, this serious but flushed look, credibility is not high. Emo Shanghua smiles and deliberately tightens the bandage slightly. Nanhe frowns with pain and takes a breath of cool air. But some pain? Be patient, and I'll find you some painkillers. Outside the room, Flower Thousand Willow concern voice immediately spread to come over. South Crane suddenly understand come over, can't help but droop eyes, pale face is a ruddy. Mo Shanghua tied up the bandage and handed the clean clothes to Nan He. You see, you just have a little pain and he is very nervous. Nanha's long eyelashes trembled slightly and his cheeks were as red as cooked shrimp. Mo Shanghua just stood up, picking up her medicine box and saying in a loud voice, "Come in." Almost at the moment when the voice fell, Hua Qianlu came in a hurry, squatted in front of Nan He, carefully supported her shoulder, looked left and right and asked softly, "Just now, the wound was torn again?" South craned some uncomfortable body toward the bed inside move. Nothing has been dealt with. When Hua Qianlu saw that she was so cold, she was about to ask again. However, Nan He pulled up the quilt and only showed his eyes. His voice came from the quilt, "I want to have a rest. You go out first." Mingming seems to be so calm on the surface, but in fact, her heart has become a mess because of the words of flowers. Now, I really don't know how to face the flowers. I just want to be alone. With Hua Qinliu's character, he might say a few more words, but now he has a lot more patience with Nan He. He nodded without saying a word, and carefully tucked in the quilt for Nan He. "Then you have a good rest. The medicine you drank these 2 days is quite bitter. I'm going to buy more preserves for you." Finish saying, the vision swept to Mo to spend one eye again. Two people this just go out together. Just now Hua Qianlu was just waiting in the outer room, separated from the rest place of Nan He by a screen. Now with Mo Shanghua, he went directly to another room for fear of disturbing Nan He's recuperation. Mo Shanghua casually found a place to sit down inside. "I didn't expect that the pavilion master would have such a careful and gentle day, and I didn't expect that the pavilion master was still so heavy-colored." Hua Qianlu refused to comment, and the smile on her face faded. She said, "Once upon a time I was alone, and I didn't have any burden on me. But this time she did so much for me. I've already recognized her in my heart, and I will never look at the woman next to me in the future." The flower on the street is a little surprised to look at the flowers, which is not like what he can say. After seeing this, I found that he had changed a lot. As usual, he always held a folding fan in his hand. It was like a romantic child in his hand. Today, the folding fan has disappeared. Even the neat bun and sideburns that had been combed all along were slightly disordered, and the stubble on the chin also appeared. It can be seen that from last night to this afternoon, they had not been combed well. Calculate the time, South Crane should wake up at noon. Hua Qianlu, since you are so serious, you should take good care of Nan He in the future. You can't get rid of her. After a pause, she added, "I don't know much about her, but I know in my heart that she is a proud and stubborn woman. Don't let her down." Originally the complexion is extremely serious flower thousand willows, Mao light but light flash. Mo Shanghua naturally put this hesitation into his eyes. Before he had time to think about it, he raised his head again and restored his old smile. "My son's woman, I should be considerate. You can rest assured." There was a little doubt in the stranger's playboy. It can be seen that his smile is not adulterated at the moment, so he is not pursuing it. Instead, he changed the topic. "By the way, General Chen will not give up these days. You should be careful not to be found by him. If you really can't, you can bring Nan He to live in the palace. You have a lot of eyeliner in the palace of the North City, brother. We used to only bring you trouble." Hua Qianlu refused, and his smile was full of self-confidence. "I know who Hua Qianlu is. There are many hiding places in the Imperial City. It will never be found easily. Please worry." Seeing that he was so confident, Mo Shanghua was naturally not able to say anything. He stood up and said, "Now the wind is tight. I can't come out from time to time. I brought new external medicine today. You can keep it for Nan He. I'll be here when the stitches are removed." Seeing this, Hua Qianlu got up and said, "Well, I've recorded your kindness this time. I'll let you send you back." "No, I'll go back carefully myself." Mo Shanghua shakes her head, refuses the meaning of Hua Qianlu and walks out. "Qinya didn't go with her this time. It's much more convenient for her to spend time alone in the street. When she got out of the alley, she walked quickly, and soon arrived at the prosperous place in the city. Want to return to the palace? It is necessary to go through this bustling place. Mo Shanghua had to slow down the pace, normal walking. Just passing by an inn for a moment, my eyes were attracted by the noise. At the door of an inn, a woman in white was standing in front of the hall, fighting with a shopkeeper for something. Her white cheeks were already red, which showed that she was very angry. There are more than 10 women in the same dress behind the woman. In front of all the women, a man in white was surrounded by them. All the faces were angry. Only the man was calm and detached, as if it had nothing to do with him. Better no. Mo Shanghua recognized the man in an instant, and the woman who was the leader was Xue Xue. They seemed to be in a dilemma. The flowers on the street can't help but squeeze in front of the crowd, which makes the content of their dispute clear. The second child pointed to Xue Xue, and his nostrils almost turned to the sky. He said, "This girl, I think you take yourself too seriously. As a second child, I don't know any Wuxian people. I only know that you are driven out of the palace by your majesty. Our temple is too small to accommodate you. You'd better find another place." Xue Xue resisted the impulse to teach the boy. She was angry. "I don't want to talk nonsense with you. I want to call out your manager." But in my heart, I was angry. If the inn nearby was willing to take them in, how could they come here? Think of here, Xue Xue heart is a piece of resentment. That small too just is to sneer, turn round then return to inside the shop. This is our shopkeeper's words. In a word, we have no vacant room here. Quickly walk away. Don't block us to do business here. Yu Xue Xue also wants to scold, but the second child has closed the door and has no intention of arguing with her. Xue Xueduan felt a burst of suffocation in his chest and looked back at Ning Zhizhi behind him. Holy son, Xue Xue is useless. Miss her Wuxian clan, where she used to go, was not welcomed by others when she was reduced to such a state. Think of here, Xue Xue heart is more aggrieved and depressed. Rather no is indifferent, lift eyes to see the color of the sky, light way. Now the color of the sky is not too late, we immediately out of the city also in time. Now there is no better way, Xue Xue should be cured. Mo Shanghua stands in the crowd and looks at this scene. For a moment, she has some complicated feelings. All along, Ning knew that he not only refused Emperor Baorong, but also had a complete quarrel with Yen Moli. Otherwise, it would never be reduced to such a state. It must be Yen Moli's intention. Thinking of this, Mo Shanghua suddenly squeezed out of the crowd, and her eyes fell on Ning Tongji. "Would you like to find a place to settle down with me first?" Ning knows to know tiny a lung, very quick reaction comes over. Labial horn gently pulls out a wipe radian, good. Xue Xue was dissatisfied, Xingzi. Ning knew but did not respond. She stepped forward a few steps and stood opposite to Mo Shanghua. "Thank you very much." Mo Shanghua nodded slightly and swept around the noisy crowd. "There are so many people here. You can find a place with me for a moment. I'll help you find a place to settle down." Rather no full mouth should go down, turn round low voice command, "Don't have to go out of the city, go with this girl first." Many women in the clan recognized that Mo Shanghua was Princess Yu, but they didn't open their mouth and obediently followed Ning Tongji's steps. Xue Xue was discontented and could not contradict so many people, so she had to shut her mouth and keep up with them. On the way, Hua and Ning Tongji had a chat, knowing that no restaurant or inn in the city would receive them. After thinking about it, he first took them to Hua Qianliu's tea house, and then personally went to find Hua Qianlu and asked him to find a house. Mo Shanghua saves Nanhe. Hua Qianlu doesn't even pay for the money, so he directly asks Mo Shanghua to bring them to a courtyard next to the house where he and Nanhe live. "How many industries do you have?" Mo Shanghua looks at the spacious and clean house in front of her eyes and can't help sighing. It's enough for the house to know that it's okay to add a few more people, not to mention the temporary rehousing. In a place like the Imperial City, Where every inch of land is worth every inch of money, Hua Qianlu has 2 adjacent yards. It's really a local tyrant. However, for the shock of flowers on the street, Hua Qianlu is quite calm, even a little disapproval. It's just 2 temporary shelters. I still have some elegant houses in the city. I'll show you some experience in the future, so as not to be like this. He really said he was fat and began to pant. Mo Shanghua glanced at him lightly, went forward to close the door of the courtyard, turned around and walked along the way. Lord of the pavilion, I think you'd better hurry back to accompany Nan He, and be careful that the grape trellis of the courtyard will fall to the ground one day. Flower willow cover lip light cough, immediately change the topic. Although you bring people here, I also convenient to help you look at. They are all people with immortal skills. How can ordinary people see them? Besides, you don't have to be like this. If you're being discovered, it's not good looking. It's not magic, but it's just ordinary people. Flower willow is like being trampled on the pain in general, almost jumped up. You just rest assured, I have my own discretion. Mo Shanghua glanced at him lightly, but the look in his dark eyes seemed to be extremely distrustful. Hua Qianliaqi's jumping foot is a pity that he hasn't had time to say anything yet. As soon as the flower on the street is in shape, he has already carried his lightness skill and left quickly. Hua Qianlu looks at the disappearing figure of the flowers on the street, turns around and looks at the vacant house. There is a feeling of thoughtfulness in her eyes, and she doesn't admit defeat and is curious. He really wants to see the magic of the witches and fairies. It's getting late. Mo Shanghua takes Ning Tongji to the residence and goes directly back to the palace. Without mentioning any questions, she worries Shui for nothing. She's afraid that Mo Shanghua will seize the opportunity to laugh at her. Ning knew that finally personally sent flowers out of the street and asked with a smile, I don't know how the princesses sleep recently. The perplexity and vigilance in the flower eyes on the street gushed out together, and the temperature in the eyes faded slightly. Do you know? Rather no, but just low Mao a smile. Mao inside have no half-cent malicious. Princess, don't misunderstand, I just casually ask. The flowers on the street stop and look at Ning Kongji. In her heart, she was calculating to make sure that she would rather know whether there was malice against her and what the purpose was. However, his eyes are as clear as water. When he looks to the end, he doesn't know what he thinks. He can't even see the mood fluctuation. This person is indeed the most difficult and the most profound person I have ever met. All your actions are so strange that I don't understand what you want to do. Pondering for a long time, Mo Shanghua simply comes to the point and asks all the questions in his heart. Rather no, just look at her light, lips hanging a touch of shallow radiance. I once told you, when the time comes, everything can be seen clearly. Mo Shanghua's eyes were fixed on his eyes, but half of the emotional fluctuations were not captured. When he was frustrated, he could not help asking again, what about those dreams? Those dreams start to repeat themselves when they touch you. Ning knows that the expression is still indifferent. In the dream thought, all has the reason. It's different from the usual indifference of flowers on the street. Mo Shanghua is due to experience too many things, so in the face of all changes can do not panic. And rather know the indifferent, but like after life and death, old, vicissitudes, so everything can maintain the normal heart. There's a reason for what I think in my dream. Mo Shanghua whispers this sentence in her mouth. I don't know why, but there is a trace of uneasiness in her heart. He was about to ask again, but he was gone. He was only accompanied by the empty darkness. That night, Mo Shanghua took the wooden box again, tried and tried, but did not successfully open the box, had to give up. Only that night she did not know why, did not do that strange dream, a night without a dream to sleep to the next day. The big event is coming, so I can't concentrate too much on this strange dream and Ning Jiji. On the court hall, the people who played the role of garrison troops in Yanbei City disappeared, so they began to write again and again, asking Yanbei City to return to the city as soon as possible. This matter played continuously for half a month. Emperor Baorong had already loosened his mouth, so Yen Zhenxuan stood up and temporarily blocked it back. Yen Moli naturally refused to give up. After that, he asked the Eastern Marquis to come up and tell him that Yen Beiqing, as a vassal, was not willing to return to the fiefdom. He had a bad plan. Baorong Emperor also had doubts about it, but before he could correct the memorial, he was surprised to hear that the Empress Dowager was suddenly seriously ill. In this way, not to mention Yenbei City, the rest of the princes have to go to the palace every day to wait for illness. Mo Shenghua, the royal daughter-in-law, naturally has to go to the palace with Yenbei City every day to wait for illness. When the Empress Dowager is old, the disease will be fierce, and it is possible to drive the crane ferry to the palace at any time. Therefore, everyone in the palace is worried that if something goes wrong, the charge of killing the Empress Dowager will fall on him. The ministers who mentioned Yen Beiqing's vassal affair in the court are all silent and can't mention it for the time being. If it is said that the worst thing is Yen Moli. Today, he was replaced by the third prince. As soon as he returned to the study of the palace, his face was completely gloomy. Why did the emperor's grandmother get sick at this time? Did you find out what I asked you to check? The counselor knelt down in fear. I have repeatedly explored this matter, and there is no sign of anyone else doing it. The Empress Dowager's health has always been bad. It should not be an accident. Seeing that Yen Beiqing had been staying in the imperial city for nearly 3 months, Yen Moli's temper became more and more fierce, and he could not help kicking on the counselor's shoulder. Waste, all waste. In the past few months, have you ever done something to make me feel comfortable? The counselor didn't dare to cry out for the pain, so he knelt down and straightened himself, and his body trembled gently. Another counselor around him is also the same atmosphere. Dare not come out, the forehead on the ground is wet. Yen Moli's face was gloomy, and he stood at the table, his whole face full of irritability. The Empress Dowager's illness is unusual. Now a month has passed, and there is no sign of improvement. Yen Beiqing has taken this opportunity to stay in the imperial city. Although Emperor Baorong is indifferent and righteous, he is still filial to the Empress Dowager, and he is very irritable in the imperial court. After dealing with several ministers, no one dares to mention Yen Beiqing's affairs, so he has been delaying. Seeing that the Empress Dowager's condition is not getting better, if she dies again at this time, it will take at least half a year to drive Yen Beiqing back to Yuzhou. Think so? Yen Moli Mao inside almost took fire. Is really bad luck? Bad luck. While the counselors were frightened by Yen Moli's anger, they were also more afraid. My own grandmother was ill, and she thought only of her own interests. She was really cruel and heartless. It is this kind of person who is most suitable to sit in the seat of God. Your Highness, calm down. A counselor shook his body and said cautiously, Your Majesty's body is still healthy now. Everything should be done slowly. In fact, there are other ways to strike the king you first. Yen Beiqing turned his head and stared coldly at the counselor without opening his mouth. The counselor did not dare to lift his head, and his forehead was dripping with cold sweat on the ground. Your Highness, you might as well start with Princess Yu. Yen Mo's eyes narrowed slightly with less violence. You mean? The counselor was a little relieved and raised his hand to wipe the cold sweat on his forehead. Now there are only people of Princess Yu in the palace of King Yu who love her like a treasure. Princess Yu is extremely intelligent. If you can remove her, you can not only break the arm of King Yu, but also make him in chaos. The Empress Dowager is seriously ill this time. With her previous experience of saving Yen Zhenchuan, Mo Shanghua has to do it again. However, she didn't spare no effort to stabilize the Empress Dowager's condition, so she frankly said that her medical skills were shallow. Last time she was just lucky. She muddled through and gave all these things to the hospital. Mo Shanghua is proud to get away. Lu Zheng is not so easy. Since he took good care of Yen Zhenchuan's body, Emperor Baorong has been summoning him from time to time. Now the heavy responsibility of treating the Empress Dowager also falls on him. Mo Shanghua also got the exact news from him. Baorong Emperor's body is only strong on the outside but weak in the middle, and the inside is already empty. When he attacks in the future, he will be directly depressed. Mo Shanghua wanted to use this matter to solve the dilemma of Yanbei City for a while. Unexpectedly, the Empress Dowager fell ill at this time. It was a blessing in disguise, but it also slowed down the process. On the other side of General Chen, after a while in the city, he stopped and there was no movement. Lin Xiangyin, who had been banned, was also released and went to the palace every day to wait for her illness. On the contrary, the Empress and Imperial concubine Qin, who were already living in the palace, showed no sign of absolution. Today, the Empress Dowager's spirit is better, and the women's family members, such as Mo Shanghua, are a little more relaxed. They just sit and talk with the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager is sitting on her couch, with a thick soft pillow behind her. Her eyes are flabby and drooping down. She looks very spiritless, but it's better than a few days ago. Over the past month, you've been taking care of the family. The family is very moved. You're all filial children. When the Empress Dowager praised her so much, the people did not dare to be proud and proud. They all sat down and did not say a word. Empress Lin, who has the most right to speak, is not here. Now the most respectable lady in front of Baorong Emperor can only smile and say, "This is what concubines should do." The Empress Dowager doesn't have to praise it like this. The Empress Dowager seemed to like Shu Fei very much. She took her hand and said with a smile, "Shu Fei, I heard that you have to take care of the mourning family, the emperor's side and the harem. It's very hard." Shu Fei lowered her eyes, smiling gently and respectfully, "I just did my duty. The Empress Dowager always praised me like this. I'm really ashamed." Having said that, the green shadow under her eyes could not be covered by any means. Princess Li and other concubines who have children sit by and laugh with her, but their hearts are sour. Although tired, but so tired they really do not want to come. The third prince and other princes have not yet got married. Therefore, the only women of the granddaughter-in-law's generation are Mo Shanghua and Lin Xiangyin. They are young and have small generations. When the Empress Dowager speaks, she can only stand beside the concubines. However, compared with the concubines who have no right to speak, such as Li Fei, they seem to have a little weight. Therefore, Lin Xiangyin turned her eyes slightly and said with a smile, "The emperor's grandmother didn't know something about it, and the 5 younger brothers and sisters also made great contributions to it." As expected, the Empress Dowager looked at it, with a little curiosity in her turbid eyes. "How can I say this?" Mo Shanghua was just about to explain. Lin Xiangyin quickly snatched the beginning of the story. 5 younger brothers and sisters had excellent medical skills. When you first got sick, it was 5 younger brothers and sisters who used their medical skills to turn the tide. Even a group of Thai doctors in Thai hospital couldn't compare with them. The Empress Dowager has never seen more flowers on the street. After Lin Xiangyin said so, she couldn't help looking at her more. "I heard that you saved Xian'er's life before?" On the street, Hua Lian's eyebrows were low and her eyes were neither humble nor arrogant. It's just too much rumor to go back to the emperor's grandmother. The granddaughter-in-law didn't have such great ability. It's just that at that time the imperial doctors were too worried and didn't dare to help, and they didn't dare to bear the reputation. Although the Empress Dowager is big, she has her own standards for judging people. The eyes of examination turned around on Mo Shanghua's body, nodded in his heart, and even laughed at her. "You are young, and you can still keep your normal heart after getting such great credit, so you are a good child. Granddaughter-in-law dare not. This kind of time, the flower will pose lower." Today's Empress Dowager, although no longer in power, but her words, the role is still great. Lin Xiangyin saw that Mo Shanghua was praised by the Empress Dowager. Bei Qi bit her lip lightly and said, "Grandmother Huang, 5 younger brothers and sisters have always been so kind and know how to hide. By the way, although the emperor's grandmother has been very well these 2 days, I heard that there are still some headache problems from time to time. Why don't you let the 5 younger brothers and sisters feel the pulse for the emperor's grandmother? Let's all open our eyes." Shu Fei frowned. As soon as she was about to speak, the beautiful concubine behind her spoke happily, Concubines always just heard that they had never seen Princess Yu perform this miraculous medical skill. I also want to see it. Another concubine was afraid that things would not be common, so she opened her mouth. In the past, these concubines did not dare to fight with the empress because of their luxuriant branches, strong mother family, and tough tactics. Now they have to do much better in the face of the beautiful concubines. I'm afraid there will be no excitement. Shu Fei also felt something wrong in her heart. She quickly said, "Empress Dowager, there is a doctor in the palace to take care of you. After all, Princess Yu is the daughter-in-law of the heavenly family. She has a noble status. I'm afraid to make people laugh." 5 younger brothers and sisters are close relatives of the emperor's grandmother. Who dares to laugh? Lin Xiangyin, who always had no sense of propriety in her speech, seemed to have opened her mind at the moment, and her words did not leak. Sure enough, the beautiful imperial concubine etc. see this, also follow to echo. Mo Shanghua looked around and quickly looked at the Empress Dowager, who had never spoken. It's not the granddaughter-in-law who doesn't want to. It's just the doctor who gave you the pulse of peace this morning. The granddaughter-in-law is asking for the pulse now. I'm afraid she can't see anything. The Empress Dowager nodded slightly. Just as she was about to express her approval, Lin Xiangyin crossed her eyebrows and blurted out, "Do you mean to think that the emperor's grandmother is too busy?" The room, which had just had a bit of life, was quiet, and the breathing sounds between each other seemed to be magnified by countless times, especially clearly into the ear. The Empress Dowager's wrinkled face was tinged with anger. Lin Xiangyin felt that she had said something wrong. She knelt down quickly and said, "Granddaughter-in-law, please forgive me. I just said that what she said today is not like her style. It's really beyond praise." Mo Shanghua sighed silently in her heart, and her red lips said, "At the beginning, you were egging on me, sister-in-law of the second emperor. If it wasn't for my grandmother, I would really doubt your intention." The implication is that Lin Xiangyin encouraged the Empress Dowager to go up with flowers? The public heard secretly frightened, then even the lady also changed face, quietly to the stranger to make a wink. "In the past, I used to see that my husband was very hard at talking. Today, I used it on myself." Only then did Lin Xiangyin know what it was that she was too late to repent. The color of her pretty face was so sad and frightened that she said, "Grandmother, granddaughter-in-law has no other meaning. Granddaughter-in-law just wants to please you. She has no other meaning. Please forgive granddaughter-in-law for her filial piety." Unfortunately, Mo Shanghua is not so easy to give up. If someone has hurt her twice, she must pay back several times. Oh, just to please the emperor's grandmother? Mo Shanghua's epilogue is slightly picked up. How can you hear it? How can you have a sense of meaning? In this case, why don't you think about it yourself? If you play the part or act like a fool, there's always a way to win the favor of the emperor's grandmother. Why bother to push this blessing on me? The faces of all the concubines could be described as wonderful. They were shocked, but they had the same look as watching a good play. They were staring at Lin Xiangyin. Lin Xiangyin was almost dazed by her words. Even if she was not smart, she couldn't find a retort now. She was so scared that she knelt up to the Queen Mother's bed. Tears filled her eyes uncontrollably in fear, and her voice was hoarse. "Grandmother, you believe that granddaughter-in-law really doesn't mean that, granddaughter-in-law." Then she burst into tears, pointed to the flower on the street and complained, "She's the one who always looks at me deliberately framed me my." As he spoke, he kept burping, and his words were intermittent. The flower on the street looked at Lin Xiangyin crying in front of her eyes, and the last trace of guilt in her heart disappeared. Even if she helped Lin Xiangyin because of her own interests at the beginning, it would be her wish. Hate or resentment, Lin Xiangyin should not change her direction quickly after her wedding, making it difficult to frame her everywhere. Before Lu Qian's matter she has not investigated, this time will not be soft-hearted. The second emperor's sister-in-law had ulterior motives, and asked the emperor's grandmother to see clearly. Think of this, the flower cold voice mouth, and then also straight kneel in front of the Empress Dowager. She always used to win for herself in this way, but she forgot that the Empress Dowager was also an old man over 50 years old. Enough. Shut up. Unexpectedly, the Empress Dowager's anger was not only vented to Lin Xiangyin alone, but also spread to the flowers on the street. You two sisters-in-law quarreled endlessly in front of the mourning family because of such a small matter. Do you want the mourning family to die early? Shu Fei and others immediately knelt down. Please forgive me. Lin Xiangyin bit out her lip and did not dare to cry. She shrugged and knelt on the ground, her face full of tears. Mo Shanghua's body is still straight on her knees, but her cheek is hanging down. She thinks in her heart which step is wrong, which will make the Empress Dowager furious. The Empress Dowager leaned against the thick soft pillow. Her chest fluctuated rapidly and her face was full of anger. One didn't care to fight for the limelight, the other didn't give up when she got the handle. You two let the sad family down. Let's go out to Ai Jia. Ai Jia doesn't want to see you too. Mo Shanghua feels dissatisfied in her heart. She just wants to open her mouth to explain. Then she sees Shu Fei looking at her and gesturing to her with her eyes. She purses her lips. My daughter-in-law is leaving. Then he got up and left. Lin Xiangyin was also helped up by her maidservant. She said goodbye and then walked out of the hall with her. Two people meet outside the hall. Lin Xiangyin, with a pair of swollen eyes, glared at the flower on the street. Mo Shanghua is not affected at all. She has a light glance at her, and then takes Qinya to go directly. Walking in the rain, I just met Yanbei City who came to meet her. It was a little slow. What's the matter? Why isn't your face so good? Yen North City Mao light swept one eye on her face. In the eyes gush a few minutes worry. Qinya took a look at Mo Shanghua. Seeing her permission, she said all the things from beginning to end. Yen Beiqing raised his hand and stroked the corner of Mo Shanghua's lips without the slightest smile. He joked, "You are not at a loss either. I think that Huang's sister-in-law will lose her face today. I don't know how to dislike her when I go back." But there was still no smile on the flower face. There was a little doubt in my eyes all the time. It's not so. I just don't understand why the Empress Dowager even scolded me. I didn't do anything wrong. After Qinya silently looked at his master and helped his forehead. Her master is really very slow in this aspect of emotion. This idea just turned around, then saw walking on the side of his master's son. The tall Yen Beiqing was silent and did not answer for a long time. Mo Shanghua helped her forehead again. She could not help but explain, "Princess, the Empress Dowager is old, so she naturally wants to have peace with her descendants. In the past, all the old women in the neighboring villages were like this. When I was a child, I fought with my brother, and my grandmother scolded me for it." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.